Town Hall 17 is around the corner, but its difficulty level will be different to what we've seen at Town Hall 15 and 16. Will this balance break the game, though? Let's discuss how difficult it will be based on information we've heard from the development team. We'll then cover stats we have from the current Town Hall level, as well as what we would like to see at Town Hall 17, because I'm joined by ex-pro player, rank 1 in the world at Town Hall 16, iTzu.
Okay, I mean, at this point, you're kind of making me blush, but okay. Well, that's a really nice introduction. Happy to be here and looking forward to see what we can discuss here.
Yeah, the reason I introduced you like that is because I feel like you have a very good grasp on what the meta was at Town Hall 16, and you also have a different mind when it comes to the competitive side of the game. But I wanted to start with the statements, or I guess the glimpses of information we've had from the development team on the intended balance. Now, Stuart in the most recent AMA said that they want to shake up the meta. So that's why it seems that the Town Hall and the Eagle would be getting merged.
Yeah, depending on how the outcome is looking like, this for sure, just this change on its own can already shake up the meta. Then as well, he said that we will get a new key defense, but whatever that looks like, we don't know yet, right? So depending on how that looks like, there's so many options right now.
Exactly, because whilst it seems that taking one major defense out of the base, you're going to make the balance so much easier. This is going to break the game. But until we know what is replacing the Eagle Artillery, then we can't really make an assessment as to how difficult it will be, because I guess as well it's logical as the Town Halls progress that you get stronger defenses, right? It wouldn't make sense if at Town Hall 17 the signature defense was an Archer Tower.
I mean, that would be a kind of funny move, not gonna lie. That would be really funny. But no, I agree. Like, let's imagine we would get the Eagle 2.0 at Town Hall 17, just a stronger version of the Eagle, which would still mean that we are removing the original one, but we're getting a stronger version of it, which means the game would become harder, right? So overall, I think it really depends on this new type of defense which we're getting, and then we can really see, okay, how is the game, the meta looking like, difficulty wise, equipment wise, troop wise, like what is getting used by the players. And I feel if they're having the goal of shaking things up, I'm all up for it. Like, that should be something fun, because we had a long time the same meta, and I know for Town Hall 16 things were like a little bit up and down with different troops, let's put it that way. We had the Root Rider incident. I think that's a good way of putting it. Then we had, well, a little bit of an oopsie with the Super Witch and Droid attack. But otherwise, to be honest, I appreciated that we have a different meta compared before to all of the years before. It was Lalo, more Lalo, and even more Lalo. So it was just, it's just something different. So I just like that fact.
Yeah, keeping the variety is always going to be interesting, and you quite rightly said, we don't know whether it's going to be the Eagle Artillery 2.0, but what we also don't know is how strong will the Town Hall be now if you are putting the Eagle Artillery inside of it. So yes, you are taking two defenses and putting them together, but with the Archer Towers and Cannons, for example, I remember the team said back then that they wanted to make it a no-brainer to merge. Right, so by merging two Archer Towers, you got more than twice the value when it came to the multi-Archer Tower. So we also don't know how strong the Town Hall will be and what those stats look like either. So I like the approach of trying to shake up the meta. And I guess tying into that, the other piece of information we got in that AMA was that they don't actually want to make the game too much more difficult when it comes to hit rates. And when we talk about hit rates, we mean the percentage of 3-star attacks. So it seems like the difficulty level they're aiming for is around about what we have now, judging on Stuart's comment.
Yeah, like after the changes with the droid nerf, with the superchargers, with the changes to the equipment, I would hope for that. So maybe it's after the latest changes, it's the sweet spot. We don't know if they're going to hit that. I mean, there's always a difference between trying to aim for a certain difficulty level and actually getting that, because something which we heard a lot in the past as well from the developers is there's a difference between some people testing it in the back and then actually millions of players trying it out. Like, it is really, really hard to actually predict everything.
Absolutely, because they can intend to have the balance at a certain level, but in wanting to shake up the meta, you are adding totally new mechanics to the troops, the defenses, and being able to predict everything. You might think that you're adding a troop to fill a certain void, but then, especially when it comes to the pro players and just like you said, the sheer volume of the community, they are going to be tinkering with methods that the Clash team had never thought of. Like, I'm sure when they added the skeleton spell, they didn't think anyone would drop a bunch of them, turn them invisible, take out the clan castle as a skelly donut technique, and there's numerous examples like that as well. So it is always a thing that I think the balance will continue to improve as Town Hall 17 goes on, as they have some oopsie moments, as you put it. I'm sure that will happen in the future, but in wanting to add new cool stuff, that can be expected as well. One thing that Stuart mentioned in the AMA, which again we can take as a glimpse as to the difficulty level, the question was, can we switch out our equipment when it comes to like a Legend League attack or something like that? And Stuart said no, because in doing so, we make the game even easier by allowing you to do that. And I really like that response, because I think it keeps things more difficult for the more competitive pro players who the game is too easy for them anyway, and yet it really doesn't have any impact on the casuals, because the likelihood of the general player base who just log on to do an attack each day or whatever, the likelihood of them tailoring their equipment to the base is low.
And I feel like as well that it would become kind of messy if you have so many options to change. I see already a lot of comments when I'm having a strategy, which I like to call flexible, which means you can pretty much use every single siege machine with that strategy, which in the end is like a good thing, because you are flexible with your attacks, but it adds a certain stress level to the player as well, because you have only those 30 seconds to plan. Yeah, I think having so many options before an attack is maybe a bit too much. And at the same time, like, increasing the scout time, I don't think would be something good as well, because mobile games tend to be like really quick. You're doing maybe an attack, like waiting for the bus, or like, I don't know, in the break of your work, like, or in school, who knows? But in the end, you want to have those fast-paced gameplay. So yeah, I think it wouldn't be the best idea to add such things, because it would be too chaotic.
I agree, and I also think that's part of the skill, right? In building flexibility in your army composition, whether that's freeze spells or invisibility spells, skeleton spells, like, you can use those in a variety of situations, whereas let's say you plan in a jump spell, well, then you best hope that your plan goes as intended, otherwise you might end up swagging that. So there is definitely a skill to being flexible on the fly as well, if you will. Before we move on to stats for the current Town Hall, and maybe even previous ones if you wanted to touch on that, I guess the final piece of information that we had from Stuart was that they are not increasing the equipment levels with Town Hall 17. So I guess you could say that is making the equipment not as effective at Town Hall 17, because obviously as defenses get more levels and, you know, the hit points go up and stuff, damage equipment especially would be weaker. So, you know, maybe that plays into the balance a little bit as well.
Yeah, I mean, first off, it is the initial update, which I think he talked about in the statement that there won't be any new level. Maybe we're going to get level on its way. We all know that the updates are getting rolled out in like different waves, I would say, like the new content. There's an initial really big batch typically where, like, I don't know, new content is around the new town hall, which can be possibly spells like troops, and as well then defense levels, right? So that is typically then split up in multiple different updates. And maybe one of those future updates is going to be new equipment level. We don't know, okay? Like, I'm just saying, we don't know. I know people are going to ask
I guess you're just being realistic.
Yeah, like, I just wanted to put this out there first. But I agree that it's going to change some interactions for sure, depending on like what the highest hit point defense is. For example, for the fireball, I mean, touch on the, I guess, most popular damage equipment. Depending on what the new signature defense is going to look like, hit point wise, this might change completely with the interactions. Like from now on, let's imagine, hey, we might get a new merge cannon level, which means if we follow the stats, would mean around 6,000 hit points. And that would mean that with one earthquake and the level 27 fireball, you would not be able to take that out anymore, which means you're getting forced to use 2 earthquakes. And that is then a change where, for example, already level 23 fireball is enough because you're already breaking 2 earthquakes anyway, right? So there's a lot of things overall which have the possibility to appear, and as well maybe save some ores for some players because you don't need the level 27 anymore.
Yeah.
And that obviously is then for every single damage equipment because we have the spiky bow, we have the shield for the Royal Champion, the rocket spear, and many more. So there's a lot of things which might happen.
So start practicing in hard mode is what you're saying. Because then I need 2 earthquakes for my fireball and I'm forced to practice like that. But I guess that's the other thing that to me feels like we're not moving back to a Town Hall 15 meta since they've added hard mode. But I know you are heavy into the pro scene, the competitive scene. Are you able to touch upon just giving like a brief summary of what the stats... I know people's thoughts and subjective opinions of different Town Halls, but actually numbers at Town Hall 15 and 16.
Yeah, so I think the competitive scene is such a small community in itself that it's really hard to actually dive into the stats there. Something which I like to do is with external websites, for example, from ClashSpot, where you can take a look at the hit rates of the regular player, of the casual, which means of like everyone out there in the Clan War League, where you have one attack, you want to make that count, and everyone is going to try their best, which I feel like then that's where the best stats are coming from. The stats are, compared to Town Hall 15, are still like double the hit rate overall compared to Town Hall 15, and depending on the skill level you're looking at, even sometimes triple the hit rate, the success rate, which means like let's say on Town Hall 15, I think around like Master tier was like a 14% success rate, which means 14 out of 100 attacks were 3 stars. This is what Town Hall 15 looked like. It was hard. It was really hard. I think right now, there was still like around like a bit above 30 or 35, something like that. People in the comments can correct me to like...
I'll try and flash it up at the same time as you're speaking about it. But
Perfect. Yeah, but like roughly that should be the number. I feel like we're really, really far away from Town Hall 15 right now. And those numbers were obviously even more crazy before the latest changes with the supercharges, with the equipment changes, because I think we're coming from... when we're talking about the higher master tier, talking about like something a little bit above 40 to 45% in that area. And yeah, I think after the latest changes, we're in a really good spot, especially because I personally believe that they're going to go up a little bit more because the balance change of the Druid wasn't the best timing from Supercell, let's put it that way, which means a lot of people were surprised by them. They still like to run the Druid, and this means that the hit rate was a little bit lower than what it could have been.
Yeah, because I think certainly it felt like a lot of people were hurt that the Druids were nerfed right before the Clan War League, just like we'd seen with the Root Riders previously. And I hope we can move away from balance changes right before Clan War Leagues, but we are recording this like at the start of CWL, I guess, of this month, if the stats have came in for this month as well. I know you were saying that you expected to go up. I'll have probably shared them on the screen already, but I think it's really interesting to try and see what all of the players are experiencing, because I think when, you know, we're going off our own thoughts, or even when you're looking at the likes of Reddit, it leans towards a more active player base, right? Because if you're committed to posting on the Clash of Clans Reddit, then you probably are committed a bit more than the average player. And I think that's a dilemma that Supercell has in trying to balance the game for such a wide range of players. And I think that's where hard mode comes in a bit. I think towards the end of Town Hall 16, I would agree, we're in a much better spot, especially looking at the numbers, than what we were at the start of Town Hall 16 and certainly at Town Hall 15, because I was okay with my hit rate. I would have certainly liked to have 3-starred a bit more regular. But even at Town Hall 14, like, I was okay with the difficulty level of Town Hall 14, But again, the competitive scene were pretty vocal that they thought it was too easy back then. So needless to say, there's just a really hard job of getting a balance. That's where I like the idea of hard mode. Maybe we can see that integrated into the higher leagues of Clan War, and the, higher tiers of Legend League, if you will. I wouldn't like to see Legend split, but maybe just above a certain trophy range it gets activated, so we can continue to have that competitiveness at that area of the game and try and cater to those players. And one thing I wanted to touch on before we get to our own thoughts, or I guess this is a nice transition as well, is that I like that it got a little bit more difficult at Town Hall 16 as well, because I also feel that with event troops, you want them to feel special. Like, it'd be a bit pointless if the Mashup Madness troops came in and, no one wanted to use them because they weren't even as good as the regular troops. So in order to allow event troops to be good, you need the balance to be in a spot that you can have the event troops stronger. Otherwise, in my view, you would just run into a situation like last Christmas where the cookie was just ridiculously overpowered, where you can just dump them in and they would just steamroll the base. So what would you like to see of the balance at Town Hall 17?
Again, I want to make this clear that it's like, if I personally would like to see a specific balance, it would be more going towards Town Hall 15. But what I would like to see, because, at the end of the day, I'm as well benefiting if like the game is in a healthy spot. I would think that something like the meta which we have right now, difficulty level wise, would be really good. I think we're in a really solid spot right now, where the most casuals, I think, have a really good chance of 3-starring. At the same time, the more active players have still somewhat of a challenge. But at the same time, again, we have the hard mode for the pros, where I think that this is a really good overall concept moving forward. Adding it in Clan Wars, optional. Adding it in Clan War League, maybe Champion 1 and higher, for example. I think that might be an idea. And then a Legend might be a approach you could go for. I could see where there would need to be adjustments done from Supercell's side, because I don't think that they will add a hard mode where the equipments are capped, because as well from revenue wise, people then just don't have to max the equipments, right? Because they're all,
could see
if you're a Legend pusher and you're like up there anyways, like why would you even max them, right? So like from that standpoint, we have to be realistic as well, so that if there's a mode getting added, I would assume that there will be a different approach there, maybe. That would be like my optimal dream world. I think the balance overall for the game, as it is right now, before the Town Hall 17 update or any balance changes, which might happen between now and whenever you're releasing the video. But for Clan Wars, the option of a harder mode, not specifically hard mode, but like a harder, more challenging mode. The same for Legend and Clan War League. That would be my approach.
Yeah, with the release of Town Hall 17, we could expect alongside that some sort of changes to the balance. Typically, they make previous Town Hall levels even a little bit easier, so they can scale up the difficulty. And if, based on Stuart's comment, they do want Town Hall 17 to be about the same difficulty as Town Hall 16, well then presumably Town Hall 16 is getting a little bit easier, somewhere in between where Town Hall 15 and 17 would be, so we continue to have that ramp up. Before I give my thoughts then, just picking up on your comment on equipment, because I think it's just being real about the situation, right? Supercell, maybe they will add it to Legends League. It sounds like from comments we've had in the past, they're not against that. It's something they're considering, but clearly, their revenue is something they'd be looking at as well. And that's initially what I thought when they tweaked the hard mode and capped off the equipment. I thought, okay, this is literally just going to be for friendly challenges then. It's never going to be added, because why would they cap the equipment and then add it to other areas of the game? But since then, they have still said it's an area they're considering. And I guess to get the hard mode right, it is the right call, because it really feels like the pros, it's the equipment and the heroes that they can get the massive value with. And then it doesn't matter how, quote-unquote strong or weak the troops are, they've already got the value with their heroes. So it does feel like the equipment is the right way to go. Maybe they have different difficulty levels if they do decide to add a Legend or something. I don't know. I guess we can find out on that. But I would say very similar to you in some regards, in that I would always like to see the game balanced for the general player, not for me, because clearly, I want the game to succeed and a good balance for everyone. I guess I'm probably like a bit more of an opposite of you in that I do like to be able to 3-star, and I don't actually play the game that much when it comes to high level attacks. A lot of the accounts I play for content are like lower town hall levels as well. If I'm doing like a 100-day video or something like that, like my focus is lower town hall levels as well. It can sometimes be hard with video production to like keep on top of the highest level of the game. I mean, for me, I was loving the fireball into Super Witch attack before the Druid nerf. So, I mean, if you ask me about that specifically, I didn't want to see the Druid nerf because I was having a lot of fun with it. But in terms of the good of the game, I think where we are right now is a really good spot. So I will keep my fingers crossed that Town Hall 17 does not break the game like we seen at the start of Town Hall 16, and that they are able to achieve what it is they're hoping for in terms of a similar balance to what we have right now at Town Hall 16, because it sounds like we're very much on the same page. So I thought it would be interesting to get the point of view of someone that does play at the, that top level as well. And I know you're into the stats and things as well. So I think it's always interesting to try and step away from the subjectivity and look at the actual numbers as well. So
yeah, I feel like it's just a lot easier because Clash of Clans is, and especially the balance topic in Clash of Clans, is such a hot topic. And as you said, most of the normal players just don't have the time to grind strategies, to learn strategies. I feel like this is a really big misconception from a lot of those active players, a lot of those pros, because in their opinion, well, that's the whole purpose of Clash of Clans, becoming better at the game. Well, for a lot of other people, it's just like an escape in some way, like just trying to enjoy something different, like, I don't know, sitting on the couch after work, after coming back from school, or whatever you have done over the day, and just trying to relax, like getting some attacks in, having some fun. And as you said, 3-starring is more fun.
Yeah.
And grinding and learning and everything might be fun for some few, but it's always going to be the minority, I would say. And that is something to be considered. And as well, I see a lot of people always talk about this thing like, oh, but Clash of Clans is a strategy game. But something which I have learned as well with my free-to-play project, which I have started, but I have paused right away, is that strategy can be seen differently. Like I completely understood what people were saying. Hey, strategy game, strategies, learning armies, learning different approaches is something which the obvious answer might be. But for a lot of people, the obvious answer is, hey, the strategy of upgrading my village, which can be seen as a strategy as well. And at the end of the day, it's a strategy, like long-term progression game. So yeah, that has as well like changed my point of view as well a little bit to a couple of things, especially the strategy aspect. Performing the attack itself is just, in my opinion, just a really small part compared to what most clashers are playing the game like, because they're playing how should I get the upgrades and what order should I get the upgrades, what is for me personally and my time investment the best outcome, like what should I go for, what equipment should I upgrade, the strategy in that, and how I spend my resources, for example. So yeah, that is something which I feel like is really interesting to look into, because there's so many different opinions out there, and all of them are coming from like people who are playing the game differently. And that was as well part of the success of Clash of Clans, why this game is here for over 12 years. I mean, that's just crazy for a mobile game, to be honest.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think the variety of ways that you can look at strategy is part of its success. And with success, you have trying to cater to many different player groups. So that's why I am a fan that they added the hard mode this year to try and help the pro scene as well. It's not a case of saying, we're catering to the majority of people, so, you guys have just got to deal with it. It's good that they're going to try their best to keep iterating on hard mode to get it in a spot where everyone is happy. So it'll be interesting to see what we do get with Town Hall 17. It's not too far away, but in the meantime, where can people find you if they want to look up your higher level strategy guides?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Town Hall 16, like high town level, feel free to visit my YouTube channel as well. Always a pleasure to be invited on your channel.
Thank you. iTzu Gaming. That was the answer.
That was the answer. I'm not as good as you with like all the business stuff, but yeah, iTzu Gaming. Make sure that you're visiting the English channel if you're English speaking. or the German channel. There's 2 channels, so yeah.
Thank you for your time as well, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments on what you would like to see for the balance of Town Hall 17, and I will see you in the next one.